All right. So these are the elf designs. And this challenge has been running for about 2 months, I think. And pretty much what the synopsis was behind, like the narrative, was uh, they're you just design some elves, design some Christmas elves with tasks. So this is a character design challenge because what you're supposed to do is show the character, show the actual the character of the character, the real story, their task by prop use and costumes and gestures. Um, yes, elves do have like a very small stature, and which is why you've kind of gotten away with this large head chibi thing, especially for the older, like the older elves. But what I think you should do is explore gestures. And gestures do a lot for, they speak a lot. And when we have like an older anything, an older ogre, an older dwarf, and they haunch like this, which one speaks better as an older person? So there's the neck, and then there's the neck with haunch shoulders, and then there's no neck at all with haunch shoulders, but still straight, and then there's bent back, haunch shoulders, no neck, and the head is below the shoulder line. This speaks like old person, right? So your silhouette right here is just like it's this guy with a fake beard on, or really 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 long eyebrows. So this is what we mean when we say explore some gestures. This you can use this for like any kind of character design guy. He could have like a little lean in his legs. But at this point, really, what you're doing is you're not representing age. Yeah, you know a lot of people just have a basic template gesture. They don't really explore gesture because they're not into illustrations. They're just character design artists. But you, as the character designer, does not um, uh, give you a pass or excuse you from studying gestures. Gestures are part of character design. They bring in a characterization. They bring in a character, a real spirit, a story behind the silhouette. So now, when I'm looking at this old guy right here, great detail, traffic, beautiful breathing room, really like very, very clean lines. But I think you should explore some different kinds of gestures. They all feel very, very stiff. But right here, you have this beautiful bent leg, such excitement, it's an open gesture, it feels amazing. And you do have some of that haunch shoulder thing going on where there's no neckline. But just around this guy, you kind of picked up the pace and you kind of started to feel a little bit more old, especially the super bent knee. But it's mostly in this upper piece. You can do whatever you want to the legs. You can make them perfectly just not relevant, but it's this upper portion right here that really attaches to the spine and represents the old age. So when you're designing something like that. But these are amazing designs. These are wonderful. These really dress up and make your portfolio sparkle. And I really love what you did here with the bag. Beautiful work, beautiful work. Try not to spend too much time on these. But let's have a look here. This person here, they said in their little blurb with their submission that they were exploring some silhouettes, and I think you did amazing. This bored teenager looking guy with like a winter job stockroom worker. It's just perfect. I love the width of his neck. I love the length of his neck. Reindeer herder. It looks like a madman, which is really cool. The cook, short and angry, beautiful. And the blacksmith, big and soft on the inside. All of this because the eyes are very big, so you can feel that friendly nature. And then you feel this guy, he's got the cute stature, he's got the baby stature, but he's got the small eyes. That's why you combine those two together. And then you just have the resulting characterization, which is a bit funny to look at as well. It's always funny when you have a big guy with big eyes and then a small guy with small eyes. It should be the other way around. Small guy with big eyes, big guy with small eyes. Um, Beautiful work. I'm just gawking at these. I like the way you made this little reindeer hat kind of lean down because it's too heavy for his head. And Steve, okay. There's no Bob in there, is there? No. Beautiful work, amazing. I wish you guys could name them. Okay, Joseph, yeah, he did. But name them some more so that I know. I can congratulate you on your beautiful work. No, nothing to change there. Nothing to change there. These are other pieces I'm going to look at today that are not elf design. Okay, so same thing here with the age and the gesture lines. They're very long-looking little elves. They look like full-sized humans. Um, so what really they're the Christmas elves. So it's not like a Lord of the Rings elf or a World of Warcraft elf where they're still tall and they have a really long body. It's really about the short little stubby elf and how much you can fit. When the character is no longer long, when the character is short, height-wise, what you have is the opportunity to express gestures is significantly decreased because you don't have long flowing limbs anymore. So when you have a shorter character and you're trying to express gesture, that's when it becomes very, very difficult. They're short and fat. So it's like a thick line versus a thin line. Which one here, when it bends? Okay, so let's say this thick line bent. Which looks more efficient when it bends, this thick line or this thin line? This thin line has more gesture in it than the thick one. So when we have a thicker character that's smaller, it's very, very difficult to express character when this thick character, or this thick object, whatever it is, bends to the side. And that was the challenge really behind drawing a small humanoid type creature. It's not just like an adventure fellowship. So he seems like he's someone from the adventure fellowship we did back in September, October, I forgot. Okay, so just remember that this is challenge comes with restrictions, and it's the point is that you're challenging yourself. You bring the restrictions, and those restrictions are what dresses up your portfolio. So if you are always reverting back to the same body type, be careful with that because your portfolio won't represent a diversity in your anatomy knowledge and your gestures. The most important thing to learn as soon as you're done perfecting symmetry and portraiture and the cube and perspective in portraiture, go straight into gesture lines. Don't skip gesture lines ever. Gesture lines help you sum up the motion and the greater impact of the motion animation of a body, of a standing figure. Okay. So there's a fully painted one here, and then there's some more sketches. I really like this because look at what you did. It's below the headline and it's a haunched character. Really feels like an old guy because he's very close to the ground. The bend of the bend. At one point, maybe he was this tall when he was young, but he's the old age bends the spine forward. And so that from front view looks like a shortened version. I think you guys have your lines are a little bit too light. Let me see if I can control that. Auto contrast, no. Excuse me, I don't know what just happened. Alright. Contrast, whoa, holy god. No. Excuse me, I'm just gonna cough real quick. Okay. Adjustments, brightness, contrast. Maybe I can do it like this. And darken this way. Okay. Okay. Beautiful work. So what I'm looking for really is a variation in gestures, a variation in body mass. So when we are looking at this one and this one really have a lot of character in them. If I was just imagining this as fully shadowed, like just a shadow, but to the edges that you drew it. So this has a lot of character. This has a lot of character, but this one, and this one, all the same body type. Just the thing that you depend on most is the change in the costume to represent their task or their job. When you bring these character designs into a functioning game or some kind of where we see the character design in action, either it's in an animation or a movie or a game or something like that, the only thing that still reads from a distance is your silhouette. So another way to represent the difference between like the entertainer elf and the tamer elf is really the skirt here is what you've reused 3 times. And that's not doing anything for the characterization. So maybe she can have it because she's supposed to be all dressed up. But for a tamer elf that works in the fields or in the farm or in the barn, and a gardener elf, there's other things that you can, costume design choices that you can make that make the character feel like they really belong to that task instead of just always looking pretty with a shovel, which is that whole Final Fantasy character design thing. I made the mistake of buying Final Fantasy 15, and it is the stupidest game I've ever seen in my life. But damn, like that guy was just bending over in front of the screen. You know, like his ass was right there in the screen, and everybody's ass is showing, and everybody's tits are showing, and everyone is wearing completely irrelevant costume to their task. So it's like if you're a bodyguard, you know, you're supposed to be wearing like bodyguard stuff, but everyone's just wearing leather. They look like they just walked out of Hot Topic. So the point of that is dress the character for their task. Don't dress the character to look pretty, like some sort of like just really this pointless pretty costume, and with a tool or shovel or some kind of side indication or um, just like a half in half out indication of what their task is. It's not going to read from a distance. If you asked me without telling, if I had nothing, like if I had no knowledge of Final Fantasy and I saw all the 4 main characters lined up beside each other, I think it was a porno. So I would think that, you know, that it was gonna be like a porno. I thought that's like everyone's gonna get naked and start fucking each other. I honestly thought that that's what it's. You know, I would honestly think that. And then there was this one character. She's your mechanic, and she's like a naked, like porno bitch. Like it was so disgusting to look at it. I'm like, I can't believe I wasted $60 on this fucking game. I wanted to return it, but you can't. Should have gotten the Last Guardian, man. I gave Final Fantasy a chance, and I just made the biggest mistake. It was a joke. It was just a fucking joke. It was like a fashion show. It was like fashion rejects. It was like a lineup of all the rejects in high school that couldn't even make friends with the geeks. That's who these guys were. Oh my god, it was the worst. I'm sorry. I'm just having flashbacks right now, but please make sure everything else is beautiful. You have a real variety that relates to the character. So the big coat and the Wellingtons kind of have like it's kind of like a scientist or scanner or field scientist elf measures the weather and makes sure everything is set for Santa. And then this guy is always stressed out, some kind of bookkeeper guy. Um, but this, and this, I mean, she's a chef, so she can stay inside. She doesn't have to deal with the elements. But if you found a way to make this character deal with the elements a little better, or this character here deal with the elements, I think you would have had a much better read for those 3. That's my critique. Alright. And then we have this one. This is beautiful. This gesture is so wonderful. This gesture alone makes this work, even though you have all this empty breathing room. This whole, you know, everything in here is too empty. You have big pieces of fabric that are nearly all the same width, and they're all empty. They have no detail, nothing in there indicating any kind of what's the term? Class. It's an extra decor for important elderly wise men, and tattered little pieces to represent like tattered clothes or like a field worker or something like that. The only reason why this guy here is so successful, if you had him just standing up, he'd just be as boring as the rest of them. But the only reason why he's so wonderful right now is because of his gesture. His gesture has made him really interesting. If in the game, there's like a game and he walks like this, he just has this crazy little walk to him. He would just charm the audience. It would just be the most beautiful thing to look at, just watching him run. Just his run cycle, I think, he wouldn't even need detailing on his pants. He wouldn't need extra detailing on his hat. He wouldn't need a lot of coloring. He would just need that beautiful animation walk cycle with big arcs and swooping gesture. This guy here, you're depending on his stature. He's got zero like silhouette. He's literally like this, and you've done this. This does not mean, this is not an example of a good silhouette just because you have big object besides small object. This is more interesting to look at than this, right? Putting 2 shapes beside each other does not mean it's a good silhouette. So again, if you're designing for a game, you're designing a character for a game, you just don't do this. You don't put, you just try to block in as many characters as possible and hope that there's a charm in it. There's no charm in this kind. And if you are designing for games and you have such a small window, and even if you're doing pixel art and pixel animation, your chances for success are significantly decreased because you have only so many pixels to work with. So you have to think about gesture, you have to think about the motion and the animation. And when I say gesture, I mean like the frame that came before and the frame that came after. So you think about it as a great animation. And when you're trying to find good gestures for your characters, look up videos of the action instead of just still photos of the action. So someone swinging a sword or swinging a bat, look up a video of someone swinging a bat in the angle that you need. Instead of just a picture of someone swinging a bat. This really gives you an appreciation for where the gesture has come from and where the gesture will go. What I recommend on him, just to salvage what you have though, what I recommend for him is just like for the other two girls that we looked at, how you can just make them wear bigger boots or have, belts and something to represent that they work in the field. For this guy here, what I recommend is fill up these spaces and change the sizes of each of these. You literally just have one block beside the other, and we're trying to look at this and trying to find a pattern. There's no pattern. It's just completely boring. It's just a very basic pattern. So what you can do here is just get rid of this. Have more variety in the spacing. So when we say detail relief, we don't necessarily mean detail as much as possible and just have usually empty spaces, just keep them empty. When I say detail relief, it's also in having bigger shapes and smaller shapes beside each other that don't necessarily have to be filled up with detail. It doesn't necessarily mean crazy cluster of traffic of detail and then emptiness and then crazy cluster of traffic. You can do this as well, which is what we saw before. But this in its own right is one really great way to fill up an empty space and bring in characterization and detail. One small object beside a bigger one. So he could have like two little sashes and then like a bow. And that's it. That's all we would need, and some more. I'm sure elves are very proud of their hats, so I'm sure he has some kind of, the more rings they have, the more, veteran they are or something like that. So you can give us something interesting to look at to fill this hat, which you can use. We always leave design like this to the very end. We don't want to bring in random, what's the name of that one stupid girl from that one Final Fantasy? Let's just, Final Fantasy characters. I'm sorry I'm ripping on Final Fantasy. I think it's the stupidest, and if I wasn't on speaking live, I'd use some really bad words right now. We're just looking at their armor, looking at what they really, how they're designed. I think these are some of the better designs right here, because they actually look like still relevant character designs. Like we see this in League of Legends a lot. If they are fighters, they will wear fighter type clothing or military looking clothing without the camo, but it still looks like military, doesn't it? Still looks like it. Even now in the US military, this is a very common uniform. Then we go to we go to this fucking guy. I don't even know what the fuck is happening here. I mean, I don't know. I don't really fucking know. I mean, does he is he I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how this could make sense if he's got armor only on the bottom. Anyway, what I'm saying is there was this one girl in there, and she had all these belts and fucking rubber bands all over her, and they literally depended on those rubber bands. Those rubber bands were the only reason why you could tell her from another character if you're having like a turn-based and all the characters are clustered on screen. You would only be able to tell her from the other characters because of her rubber bands. I don't know what, I think it was belts. It was the stupidest character design I've ever seen in my entire fucking life. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to bring these in first. We don't want to bring in the sashes and the sparkles and the earrings and the ribbons and the bows. We don't want to bring those in first. What we do is first we have the general, we make choices. Is it going to be female, male? What's the role? So the narrative comes first always. Alright, after that is the gesture line. The gesture line ties right back to the narrative. In fact, it is the parent. The narrative is the parent of the gesture line. After the gesture line, of course, you tie up anatomy, basically render. And then gesture, you try to incorporate the costume in the gesture. So when we're talking about a guy that's crazy, his little overalls are really doing a lot for his character right now. They're really making him feel like like a street rat kind of deal, New Yorker street rat, which is really really cute back from the 40s. Um, and then so the gesture and the costume are tied. Costume comes after and reinforces the gesture, which is reinforcing the narrative. So now this character is consistent through three major arcs of design. This character has stayed the same. And that's why when I'm saying, when we're looking at those dresses that those girls were wearing, that was the same dress three times over. What dress? We have to think about which dress to choose in order to reinforce the gesture that reinforces the narrative. So that one girl that was dancing around and singing K-pop music, this was working for her. That whole pretty dolly big dress thing was working for her. But you use the dress two times again, and we're thinking about, is this costume right here, is it reinforcing the gesture? What is it really bringing to the table? So, and then after we think about the costume and the general molar pieces of the costume, the kinds of pants, the kinds of shirt, the kinds of shoes, the kind of hat, and costume comes with weapon as well. And then you bring in the detail. And then you bring in all those stupid belts. If you need 1,000 belts, if for some reason each belt is a demon that she killed, I don't know. I don't know what could have been. It was the stupidest. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. It's every time I think about Final Fantasy, I just cringe a little because it's so irrelevant. All these characters have the most irrelevant parts of their design, which I guess is the charm because it's so rogue and devil may care. And I don't care. I'm going to walk around the desert with leather and I'm going to sweat my balls off and I'm going to get crotch burn and probably a rash, but who gives a shit? There's no practicality, and I guess that's the charm. There's zero practicality. But practicality is what makes it read from a distance. And practicality is what you need nowadays. It's trending in games, it's trending in independent game design. When you have a practical design for a character that really feels like this character is believable and real, instead of just putting random shit with random shit and hoping that it charms someone. And it shows you as a more mature designer as well. And we repeated all of this in the previous design. So after you control, so that you don't bring these little details and these little belts and sparklies in and these decorations on his hat first. You deal with this empty space pattern here, this boring pattern that you had in the costume. You address that first, and then you can start bringing in the bows and the little cuts and the little pieces of his clothing that made him look like, he's one of the poorer elves. He doesn't really have all that much, but he still makes everybody happy. I'm not sure what he does, really. I'm not sure what that is. It looks like a strudel. I'm not sure what it is. So here, this guy you need to fix his gesture. So remember those 3 stages? You chose the character, and I need to go back and redesign him. Delete this and try it again. How could he possibly, how much more interesting could you make this if he was running? With the gift box still attached to him. So he's the tiny guy, but for some reason the tiny guy is in charge of bringing the big boxes of gifts, which is a really cute little premise. So try to find another gesture of him carrying the box and redesign according to this design choice that you have here. I think what how sweet you made him look. So his little bow and his little, everything is just spot on except for the gesture. There was almost zero gesture. And this guy, correct this weird little not reading kind of thing going on here with these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. These 6 blocks around this character. Also, when we are talking like older fellows, we typically just shrink the eyes. There are different things. Remember how when we're painting 14-day challenges and I tell you guys don't use these lines because it makes people look old? Please use them if you are going for an old face. So please go for it. Shrink his eyes. Make him have some sag. Just like that. Something that'll just read from a distance a little bit better. Okay. He kind of looks angry though, so also like evil-like. So one eyebrow could go down because of his age, and the other could go up, just to show that he's a little bit happier than grouchy. He's ready to tell some stories. And then again, you could have all kinds of weird little, depending on their culture, and again that comes back from the narrative. What kind of elf culture are you designing? Don't hide the other hand. Show the other hand. It's a chance for you to bring in more characterization. Okay, this other hand could, I don't know, be on a cane or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's his staff. Maybe that's his cane. I'm not really sure. Okay, so that's my diagnosis. Alright. Someone at the door? Or someone at the neighbor's door? I think that was the neighbor's door. This guy carves wood. Man carves wood, instantly give him a belly. This is the age-old character design. You'll find this blacksmith body type used time and time again. So the blacksmith that I designed an elf too, and I just chose a blacksmith. Carves wood, blacksmith, same thing. It's just someone that works with his hand who has an apron and either a hammer or an axe or whatever. But what we usually do is give them a heavier body type, because why? They wield a pretty heavy weapon. And so that's why we give them a body type to reflect that. We talked a lot about that with the Adventure Fellowship character design. So giving him a bigger body type and tiny little elf feet, I think will make a really nice silhouette. And try to not make his hand just in that Barbie. So remember that whole Barbie doll thing that I was talking about before? When you have Barbie doll arms that just always look like that. Don't do this at all in a character design. Try to find either his hand is straight down because it's just the most comfortable way to keep your hand, or he has like his hand on his, I don't know, his hip, and then he's still holding on to his axe. Okay, don't do this Barbie doll, Ken doll arm. So fatter body type, and then cares for the animals. This is very good. She is wearing a coat that feels like she does work out in the weather. What would be really cool if she carried some feed around with her. Something that shows that she has some, her equipment on her. That was the point of this character design, that we know exactly what we're looking at instantly. We don't need a little blurb and a written piece here for us to understand what's going on. Sings and plays. So you could have looked up some gypsies, some artisans, I don't know what they're called really, those entertainers, some circus performers, and what kind of costumes they wear. People who perform on the streets in like France or Italy or just here in New York, what kind of stuff they wear. They wear all kinds of flashy stuff. They wear costumes. They have all kinds of crazy makeup. So I'm sure the same thing applies when you're an entertainer. You kind of just have to dress yourself up a little more, go crazy. Because you're entertaining, you're bringing color and light and dance and different shapes, and so that's what I could recommend for her. The fact that she's sitting down really broke the gesture completely. You could have had her I don't know, just standing up, doing some kind of dance move, maybe doing some kind of like thing with her legs, maybe some kind of ballet thing. I don't know, not so stiff, because ballet is pretty stiff. Over here, what else could she have done? Maybe one of her gloves could have been a little bit more leather and armored, just like how falconers or whatever they're called have those gloves that kind of protect their fingers from the talons and the bite of the beak of the eagle or the falcon or whatever. So you could have given her one of those. It's a nice little badass little piece of armor compared to all the cute little other costume bits that she's wearing. Since she's out in the cold so much, I would have given her a heavier scarf, but nothing too in the way, so that she can just move around and feed all the animals. What else does a farmer wear? An apron. There's definitely always an apron, and really, really high boots for all that manure everywhere. So I would give her higher boots. And that's it. I think that's what I would give her as an animal tamer. The feet and the gloves really made it for me, or the shoes are optional. You can still give them their little elf curl. Okay, so body type, gesture, and the actual costume. So those are the three different examples of how a gesture is impacted, or a character design, sorry, is impacted with the lack of these things. Body type, gesture, and costume. All right, all of these have to reflect back to the character design, and it all sources from the narrative. What's the narrative? What's this character doing? Where are they headed? Where did they just come from? Think three-dimensionally. Write that back to me. Feed my ego. Stroke my ego. Write that back to me. Adjustments, contrast. I'm just gonna Marco. See, they're done by our dear fast key, or Marco. I love this one. She's a baker, and she's kind of balancing it, but she feels like a dancer as well. So this is what I could have recommended for the previous one. These little, the three that we just looked at, that one dancer, entertainer, elf. This is something that she could have been doing with her gesture. Beautiful gesture. Okay, so task-wise, I think you have costume down well. For a candy elf, is she bringing the candy or is she delivering the candy? And does she deliver the candy and entertain at the same time? So is she like delivery and entertainment, like like a caroler person that brings in candy with them, like a candygram? Is she like a candygram? Is she like a candygram person? Like a candygram delivery person. Um, Sorry, I'm just reading comments. If you just want compliments, this is the wrong place. People come here to improve mostly. I never said for her to just hand out compliments. Alright. Focus again. Okay, so if she was an entertainer and she delivered, then that's a different task altogether. And not, don't just have to have basic tasks, like nuclear family tasks. If she's a baker, though, she doesn't feel like a baker. So you have to ask yourself, were you going for baker? If someone commissioned you this and someone asked you, yo, Marco, design a baker for me, this would not have felt like a baker. So what you could have done is, I don't know, find a way to make this cupcake into a chef's hat. Definitely the apron. I don't know, also in the air, in the middle of the dance. What else do bakers have? They have the little blenders, and they're probably a little toolkit for her spatula. What else? Measuring cups. I would just throw all that kind of stuff on it, just to show that this baker's ready to bake, Toy maker. Another example of what's the task, what's the job. So if the job was, again, delivery person or representative or mascot, then he's good. But we want to show the task, the character design behind it. That's the challenge. Find a way to make him actually look like a toy guy. He just looks like he's a magic guy that found some toys nearby and made them float. He didn't read to me until I read your little blurb, Marco. I didn't know what his role was, and her as well. And except him, I knew what he was because he was surrounded by gift wrap and he was actually wrapping gifts. Beautiful job on the gesture of this gift wrap, by the way. You have a real spirit in your sketches. But yeah, to make this guy look like a toy maker, just some tools, basic stuff will make it read and make this a success. So what kind of stuff do people wear when they're working with wood? They have masks, they have goggles, they have hammers and nails, and they have paint all around them, and I think that's what really sells it, is that your costume is tied in with the task. It's not an independent costume just for the sake of costume like we see with Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is the cautionary tale. My opinion will never change about Final Fantasy, and I think that they are very, very comfortable where they are. This really nonsensical, just to keep repeating the word nonsensical over and over again. And as a kid, yeah, I was really charmed by Kingdom Hearts. I loved Kingdom Hearts. But his costume never made sense to me. Like, well, why did he have to have such a massive chain necklace, and what was with his boots? And I guess that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to make it more Disney-like, but half in, half out, Square Enix and Disney. But even then, when we think on it, it's depending on audience. So if your audience is a more mature audience, then yeah, please bring in the weapons and bring in the tasks and the tools and whatnot. But if it's a younger audience, I think you can get away with some really weird shit. You can get away with like these really, really super baggy pants like we saw in Kingdom Hearts, like just super baggy, and like crazy overalls. You can get away with all kinds of stuff. Kids love these shapes. They really respond to them. They also respond to some really, really great uh, silhouettes. Alright, so this dude right here, his hips are too wide. His hips are too wide. So this was gesture. So what we just looked at, Marco's work, that was an example of the task not being integrated in the development of the costume. All right, and the gestures are kind of not really representing the toy maker deal as well. But if they're dancing around, that's fine. You get away with it with a gesture than you do with silhouette, or you don't get away with it when the silhouette is weak or when the costume design is weak. This guy's legs need to go in, because what we're saying here, if he has hips this big, nearly as thick as his shoulders, we're speaking a very, very feminine silhouette. So unless it was female, so that's the thing. I think it's a male because of the nose. Okay, this canvas is way too big, dude. Alright, let me shrink it. His hips don't lie. You're welcome, Marco. Beautiful work. Come on. I have like a fucking 24 gigs of RAM. 26? What is it? 30 gigs of RAM? Hurry up. Alright. Image size. Oh my god. 9,000. Ow. Oh my gosh. Alright. Liquify. Alright. So when we're talking about a male, and we're talking about a male silhouette, what we do is really, we think about the shapes in the silhouette. So body mass is distributed for males at the top, and women is distributed at the bottom. Alright? So we've got this kind of like deal here for males and females. Let me make them the same height. When we think about it like this, it becomes very, very easy to make choices in the silhouette, make something that reads better through the silhouette alone. Again, please consider just blocking out the entire character, just to critique yourself, just so you don't have to deal with me and my bullshit. To critique yourself, just completely color it in all the way, and just make it black and just see if it reads. Sometimes some artists, some character design artists, start with a black silhouette. They make sure the silhouette reads, and that saves all kinds of time later. They don't have to depend on stupid little random costume design excuses and crutches in order to get their character to read or their concept to be successful. So when you block it out, you really do test a lot. So when I blocked him out, his hips were too thick. And when I block her out, her legs are too far apart. So what this far apart leg is doing is it makes her look like she has a very wide stride, almost giant-like. So if you've ever looked at really successful animation, like Powerpuff Girls, for instance, the way women move in Powerpuff Girls, the way women move in all kinds of Cartoon Network stuff. So Dexter's Lab, Dexter's Mom, anime, the way women move in anime, girls move in anime, they have a very, very short stride. So when we're bringing this massive leg, she's like, she's like walking through this like massive giant like, stride. And if we're trying to draw a giant female, we break all the rules. Even if she's beautiful, she's got like this massive stride about her that really makes her feel like she's just going to stomp on everybody. That's her head, that's her nose. So what we want to do is bring the legs closer together. This is not a comment on the fact that women need to close their legs. This is a comment on just the gesture and how it reads, and a more feminine ballet type gesture for her. So right here would have been a little bit better, and then this leg would have just read if it was a little closer, or closer this way. Alright, so she still looks like she's walking, but the stride is a lot smaller and a lot more sweet looking. So I'll show you what I mean. It just looks like, she's like la 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 la. She's like she's skipping, and she's brought the whipped cream and the hot cocoa. So she's the hot cocoa kind of barista elf. But that whole business with the legs really threw me off. That wide stride. It was like you were pointing at something. Not sure what it was. By all means, please use a wide stride for like a big, burly tank berserker kind of mad guy. But don't do that for female characters that are supposed to be cute and bouncy and sweet. Um, so this Harrison guy, I think his legs should be a little bit more close together because he seems like a business dude. And what do we do with business dudes? We give them a tight ass. So I would just even more, that whole symmetry, that even like a ballet type of symmetry going on with him. Alright, so let's see where they use this. They use this exact silhouette. I'm telling you, I don't make this shit up. They use this in Arthur Christmas. Arthur Christmas. Where's his brother? What's his brother called? This dude right here. Alright, so he's like the super techie guy, and let's find the character design for him. His brother's name is Steve, right? Yeah, Steve. His legs were just close together. He had this tight ass look about him. They did try to give him the, oh my god, there's like fan art for him. Oh god, no, Google. Why, Google? Why? The way he walked down the stairs was one like specific scene where oh my god, there's some really dumb shit there. There was a moment where shit, I should not have Googled that. Fuck, my head's all red now. There's a moment when he's walking down the stairs. He looks very stiff. He looks like a stiff. Fuck, I should not say the words right now. Alright, but he was walking down the stairs very, very mechanically. He was very put together. He was always in this exact gesture like that. Alright, perfectly straight legs, military kind of symmetry. This guy, he seems like he's ready to follow orders. So, oh my god, I have to edit that shit out of my video. Fuck you, fans, you freaking creepy ass fans. Drawing the most weird shit? What the fuck, internet? Anyway, so what I would do is I would give him even more, like, sharpness on the shoulders. God damn these kids, man. These kids are just so fucking horny. God. Drawing all kinds of fan art. I mean, how is that? It was the elf dude and... Oh my god. So stupid, man. So stupid. Beautiful parting on the hair. Good choice. I would make this a little bit more straight. But yeah, altogether, I think with these tiny little changes that we've brought back that triangle in the silhouette. So it's an indirect triangle. So yeah, it gets interrupted here, but it still reads. We still see those lines connect in our mind's eye. And that's what makes the gesture successful. I think you tried to make her walk. And you can just look up a very basic, girl walking in dress, or look up like a tutu dress on the catwalk. I know the catwalk is the most unrealistic kind of walk ever, but it can kind of give you an example of what happens to the legs. So they don't necessarily have to be like one leg here and one leg back here, like a massive giant stride. It could have still come back to the same meeting point at the hips. This guy is great. I have no problems with this guy. He's fat. He looks like he's sitting down. It's a closed gesture. He just looks like a fat, comfortable monk grandpa elf. Of all the people to draw, they chose Steve from Arthur Christmas. I know, like, what the you have to accept the fact that if you Google something, there's a 50% chance you'll be scarred for life. I mean, I have safe search on, don't I? I don't know anymore. Alright. God, Google, is this what you pride yourself on? Is that it? Just this fucking fetish art and weird shit? Like, don't you, in all your billions of dollars, haven't you hired someone yet to just, like, clear out some crap? Just hire 100 people. They'll be done in a year, and they'll just clear out all this random shit from your search. Fuck. I don't even know how it's done, dude. Anyway, let's take a look at these. So this is a really, really nice design, but the problem is you have real contrast happening here that should be relocated over here. So this tiny little brush beside another tiny little white brush, so you've got black and then white. This is just, it's just, my eyes are just going here, especially because it's in the center of a square canvas. When you have a tile, like this, when you have a tile canvas, the center is always going to be right here. The focal point is always going to sit right there. That's just, it's always going to come back to this spot. If you shift anything over this way, this is just going to have empty, awkward space. But in a long canvas, when you have a long canvas, you don't really have that, because now you have this larger spiral available to you. And you can fit this character a little low on the canvas if you want it. You can fit him down here. So you're not necessarily leaving this right smack dab in the middle of the canvas. His head is now in the middle of the canvas. And we have comfortable breathing room at the top, so his growth isn't really stunted. And it feels like there's just a minor amount of environment around him. So that's step one. Step two, I got rid of some of that extra black stuff behind him. You don't need that for a character showcase. And I would just bring down this, be darken. I'd bring down some of this contrast over here. So get rid of that. If you wanted his armor to shine just a little bit, you could have just given us a quick little number like that. Bloop, bloop. Shiny armor. It doesn't have to be tiny little lines beside each other. And then you could, again, go back to his face. His beard is just a white mass. His eyes have very little design behind them. His nose doesn't have enough. It doesn't really speak a texture of skin. It doesn't really speak a skin texture. And I would bring way more shine around the nose. It's oily. It's big and oily, so. You've interrupted this core shadow right here with too much secondary light source. Yes, it's coming off the beard, but it's not that much. The beard needs to be connected to the core shadows around it, so that means this entire half of the beard needs to be in shadow as well. And when we zoom out, we see these kinds of errors. Always keep your navigator on. The sun seems to be really bright, so it wouldn't hurt to play around with some cast shadows just a little bit. Maybe throw a little cast shadow over here. Just like that across the face. And then bring some of that eyebrow back. Okay. And then there's just the nose is very, very big. I feel like you've kind of shifted it over to one side. It doesn't feel like there could possibly be another nostril on the other side. So what I could do is just kind of finish off the nose there. So you could focus the attention back over here. Even though the nose is big for these character designs, it shouldn't be so big that the character is all nose. Because after that, it just doesn't seems like a deformity more than a characterization. So don't confuse deformities with characterization. Write that back to me. Alright, so we probably might see the other nostril, I'm not entirely sure. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to consider where everything comes from. We might be seeing the next. But by the way, Arthur Christmas is a great movie. I promise you it's got no fan service in there like we just saw. I really recommend that movie. It's the most hilarious fucking movie ever. Something about British comedy, yo. It's just nothing's like it. Alright, the mouth needs to end right there. So decide where you want the ending of the mouth to be, but it's not supposed to be just all the way back here. I'm just going to give him a little smile. And then his beard, his mustache as well should have some shadow to it. And if the cast shadow is going this way, then his nose, which is very big, would cast a shadow across his beard like that. His eyes are the focal point in a character design, or part of the focal point in a full body character design. So that means we're going to have a little bit more work here around the eyes. His eyes are very, very sweet. I love the expression, so just try to keep that, but bring in some more detail. The perspective on the eyes is also a little bit off. And a little bit of extra shine here. And then his beard, his mustache as well should have some shadow to it. And if the cast shadow is going this way, then his nose, which is very big, would cast a shadow across his beard like that. His eyes are the focal point in a character design, or part of the focal point in a full body character design. So that means we're going to have a little bit more work here around the eyes. His eyes are very, very sweet. I love the expression, so just try to keep that, but bring in some more detail. The perspective on the eyes is also a little bit off. And a little bit of extra shine here. Not too much white on the eyes, and try to complete the other eye as well. And when you do start on the other eye, please make sure that the nose has a complete edge to it, right over here. And this whole section, this upper section of the nose, is what gets the light. Just like that. Alright, and I'll show you the before and after. So you need to think a little bit more geometry-wise. Go back to your native geometry. The native geometry of the face is what's going to guide you around the perspective. Geometry guides perspective. Write that down. So if his nose is so big that it's so big we're looking up at it, then it's going to be in perspective, and we're going to be seeing the bottom of it. So meaning we're going to have the bottom half of the cube, and then that piece in front of another piece behind it, because it's in the bottom. It's behind it, I mean. So when we start on the other eye, that should have been complete, and this edge should be a perfect clean edge. Alright, oops, messed that up. A little bit of extra shadow. I'm not zoomed out, really bad idea. I'm not going to get the right shape for the eyes unless I zoom out. Okay. Oops. And then the eyelid. And that eyebrow is a little bit, it's very white, so that means this one here needs to get a little bit more of its whiteness back, but still stay dark under the shadow, and then his white beard would get way more whiteness to it, almost like a subsurface scattering kind of whiteness. And the biggest no-no of all is that you had way too much white everywhere around him. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean this up real quick like. Okay. Actually no, I'll keep that. And just darken the background so that we can have a more believable subsurface scattering around his beard. So that subsurface scattering basically refers to the whiteness, or the brightness that gets caught under a translucent object, which is an object that is not fully dark. This eye is just completely fucked it up. Right, a little bit under the brow, a little bit under the hood. Okay, so now the attention has been brought back to him. He's got all the contrast. The nose is taking up less space on the face. It's not just a nose for a face. And it's a full canvas now. My bad, I forgot about this stupid thing. Sorry. Should have gone back to it better before. Alright, so before, after. Nose is a little bit big and you didn't have cast shadows. So just some quick changes, quick like. For this one, this is completely just separate from elves and anything like that. I just wanted to show you that the skin doesn't have a lot of contrast on it, and the cast shadows aren't very long, so this would mean that this area here would have had subsurface scattering on it, diffusing this shadow. So that is that. And then I would get color mode, grab a white, and make it so that her skin has a bit more whiteness than yellow in it. That's really what's going to make the skin feel more believable. And altogether, skin isn't actually this saturated. Skin is actually pretty pale. Okay? So before you had too much contrast and too much saturation, and it kind of made everything look cheesy, and made the blush the blush in areas where it was supposed to count, it didn't count. So now if we bring that back, that saturation, so let's say we bring it back over here and down the cheeks. Oops. Just a little bit on the cheeks. Please make sure that if you're going to bring in a cool blush for the cheeks, you bring in the same cool for the lips. You don't have two different kinds of blushes. This is the same complexion both times. So it's going to have the same kind of rouge on the nose, on the cheeks, and on the mouth. Alright, so normal. I'm going to raise that up. So skin is a lot more pale than you guys think. It's actually not yellow or beige, it's white yellow and white beige. Write that back to me, please. And you have some really like dark patches. Like you've got some dark patches over here and some super light patches up here, like her skin value dropped after her forehead. So I recommend you look at that as well. You also need to bring in more greens around the eyes because her skin is very pale. So there might be a bit more green under here. Anywhere where we have paleness, we're going to have some of that green come through. And paleness coupled with translucency. So translucent skin, again, see-through skin, which is the skin of the eyes. Subsurface scattering on the nose. And then all this, plus some edge work and some hair might make this a success. Okay, so before, after. See that? Way too much contrast on that shadow. All you need is an edge. You don't need this much contrast. So before you guys even give your edges a chance, you jump for the darker value. Why not just work on your edges before you jump back in? That's lesson number 1 in all my private tutoring. Every single student has never been excused of that lesson. I don't care how advanced they were when they came in. I don't care how much of a beginner they were on day 1. Lesson 1 of day 1. Do not forget your edges. Your edges are the most important thing. When one object is in front of another object, that object does not share atoms, it does not share space, it does not share distance. So that's why we need to address the edge. Now, after I brought in the edge, it still feels too dark. Okay, so just imagine everywhere else you guys are doing this. All the other times that you guys have brought in too much contrast before you thought about your edge work. You also have a great chance here to bring in some geometry. Some more edge work. Just around the nose. Slightest little bit. I'm not sure the reference you used, probably some sort of master study. But I just popped. Just wanted to have that in there. Okay. So before, after, before, after. And you can raise the contrast as high as you need it now because now you're guided. And you most likely will only raise it in highlights. You won't be raising it in you won't be raising it in darkness and in value, in a drop of value. You'll only go higher from here. You're as dark as you need to go. Right, and that's what the masters did. When you guys are working with oil paint, do you think these masters that you're studying went straight for the dark value? They're working with oil paints and acrylics. Do you know how unforgiving those media are? Those media are? They're not forgiving. So they come with a texture. You can't just keep layering until it looks right. You always start light to dark, and before you go dark, you give your edges a chance. Write that back. Alright, so whoever posts the best notes gets a gift from me. I will gift you guys something. And please do it fast. A lot of you, when I message you guys and to message me on Facebook, if you don't message right away, you don't get the gift. So, stay on it. This is it for today. I don't have time to look at this. So if you guys liked what you saw today, just go to istebrak.com and follow me on YouTube. Go to Google Plus to join. or to join other challenges, but the current holiday challenge is obviously now closed. Thank you everyone who joined it. I didn't choose everyone's designs. I'm sorry, there wasn't enough time, but you guys did amazing. Your portfolios are going to thank you. Um, and there is still one more challenge up. It's not really a challenge, it's a scholarship opportunity that I have available for some students who need it. All kinds of rewards, and you just have to write a little application and post it to the 2016-2017 My Transformation Grant. And I will choose the winners with the help of my moderators in January. Mid-January, I will announce the winners. Have a great holiday, you guys. I will see you guys next year if I'm not streaming next week. Bye-bye.